Clemson football is the shark fin off the shore of college football right now. They are in full-on stealth support mode. That's the mood around Clemson. Stealth support. And that is basically where you stay quiet. You put your hand over your mouth. You pump your fist under the table because you know that Georgia body bagged you in week 1. No one wants to revisit that, but it happened. And then everyone forgot about you. Everyone tossed you on the scrap heap, maybe including me. And that's a fact. But there's another fact, and that is if you tossed Clemson on the scrap heap after week 1, all you did was toss Dabo Swinney right into his wheelhouse. That guy wants to live on the margins and on the fringes. He wants to be doubted. That is his fuel. Little old Clemson was a phrase that didn't exist 15 years ago, and he came along and basically invented it. And in the process, all they did was build a powerhouse program, beat Alabama twice in national championship matchups, which I still think is one of the most underappreciated chapters in color television college football history. No one else did it. No one else did it. In a world where it shrank so much, the prism of who can and can't win at the highest level shrank so much, that guy went to a non-blue blood, having never been a head coach, and ended up creating a model and fostering a culture that not only was able to meet Alabama in big moments, they beat them twice, and the third time was a really good game. So the mood there is sort of matching what's happened after the Georgia game. Nobody's mentioning them. I think LSU and Clemson, I'm going to talk to Kublik about that in a little while. I think they're the two wildcard teams kind of down the old stretch in college football this year because they're the teams that technically have enough talent on the roster that if things fall into place, they could really surprise some people. I'm not sure, as fun as some of these Big 12 teams are, I'm not sure that they have the overall speed and raw talent and athleticism prerequisites to make noise deep into the playoff. But Clemson does. LSU does. There is, let's say if, I'm not going to speak in definitives, if there's no elite team out there, and many of us are buying into that working theory, well, then that means the door is cracked for not everyone, but several more teams than usual. Someone could kick that thing down, and it can be Clemson. But you got to be careful because I want you to remember Texas. It won't be hard for you because it was just last week. It was 5 days ago as we sit here right now talking on Thursday when Georgia went into Austin, really reminded Texas you're not there yet. And that hurt because Texas looked like they were there. Texas believed they were there. Texas was favored against Georgia in Austin, and the eyes of the entire world were on the University of Texas, and they fell and got physically owned in the process. And that sounds a lot like what happened to you in week 1 against Georgia. There is a world where Clemson is still fraudulent. I don't want to live in that world. I happen to like Clemson. I happen to want them to do good things. But we got to be careful because you haven't played much of anyone. There's the schedule. And after the Georgia game, what it looked like in the preseason was, ooh, man, they're going to play Georgia. And then App State. App State's not one to be trifled with. Turns out they are. Ooh, NC State, sleeper in the ACC. No, they're just asleep. There's a big difference. Stanford, Florida State, and so no one's tested you. You know my Usain Bolt theory. If Usain Bolt showed up to a middle school track and field event, he would smoke all the little children. He's still Usain Bolt. Just because he didn't race against anyone doesn't make him any less a world-class sprinter. However, I could also show up to a middle school track and field event and smoke those kids and would happily do so for free. I would not be a world-class sprinter. I would just look like one. Is Clemson Usain Bolt or is Clemson me? Perfect out-of-context clip for later. But the difference could be, if you want to take the negative tone here, the only difference in Texas and Clemson may be when they play Georgia, as it turns out. Now, I happen to still own stock in both of these teams. So I am not personally raining on your parade. I'm just saying someone else could walk in the door, like Dark JP could walk in the door and make that point, and I'd say, shame on you, but you may be right. But shame on you anyway. There is no Miami on their schedule. They got the best odds to win the ACC right now. There's no Miami. There's no SMU. I think they do play Pitt, but we are also in a potential world where we have 3 unbeaten teams in the ACC, at which point all-out chaos unfolds.